Welcome back to Intentional Oversharing with me, your host, Neely Kimmy, as always. Today I have a wonderful, exciting, special guest. I have Alexis Wainwright with me today. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Neely. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to have you with me today. I wanted to quickly just give you a chance to share a bit about what you do, like what you're interested in, whatever you want to share. I think we met originally on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure how we found each other, but if you remember anything about that, feel free to share that too. But yeah, go for it. Tell me a bit about yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I don't think I actually ever shared, but the secret connection was actually Nav was the one that was like, oh, you should talk to Neely. So I know I was connected with you before that, but after I watched your podcast episode, I was like, oh, you know what? I want to be a cool kid too. I also want to talk to Neely. So that was how I found you.
I love it. I'm going to call Nav out here really quick because he sent me the day that you and I had our coffee chat last week, I think. He sent me a message with like a screenshot that said something about like, I met Neely and the doggos or something like that. And
Yes.
she's really cool or something like that. And he just sent me that without any context. He like took your name out of it. And I was like, oh, is that Alexis?
Oh
Because
my God.
you were the only person that I had talked to, like you and Amy were the only people I had talked to that day who also met my dogs. And he's like, oh, wow, people can spot Alexis so easily. I'm
I
like,
love
no,
that
I use
that's recent.
context clues.
I love that.
It's the doggos.
I love that Matt has just been like the go-between spy, being like, this person has a really cute doggo, so you need to meet them. I even asked him, I was like, does Neely have a cat? And he said no, so I don't know that he knows that you have a cat.
You're
But he
wrong,
just said
Nav.
doggos. But, Mav, come on. Do better research next time. You're my source here.
For real, get it together. I will say my cat hides. She's not going to make an
That's,
appearance. She's taking
sometimes
up
I
my
feel like
entire
doing
bed.
that on a Monday. It's all right.
Yes. I love it. Okay, so that's a little bit about how we got connected to each other. But tell me about yourself, Alexis.
Yeah, besides loving doggos, I think that's like my signature apparently. But I'm the director of community development at the Full Plate. We're an intuitive eating community, so we're built on inclusion and belonging and healing your relationship with food and your body. And we're really, the purpose behind us is really rebelling against diet culture because we know that it's really rooted in exclusion. And I could just go on and on about so many problematic things. So we're just coming together to support each other, to learn and to grow. It's been such a really cool experience. We just launched in September. We've got so many great members already. And I work with Amy Ginden, our founder, and she's just been an amazing source of knowledge. I've personally learned so much about intuitive eating within my journey with food as well. So it's been amazing to be building, but also just learning and growing. And then, yeah, a little bit about me. Let's see. I feel like everyone knows that I have two bunnies that I love very much. I also have a cat. So I am a bunny mom. I live in Bozeman, Montana, where I love hiking and bothering wildlife. I'm also a big giant nerd, so I have like a ton of plushies and random things in the background over here. Kind of a mix of an outdoors hippie and then an indoor cat that just likes video games and books. So that's me.
I love it. I love that your description of your personality is what type of animal you are in which environment. That's
That just
very
sounds awesome.
relatable.
Yep.
So good. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to have you here today, Alexis, for a number of reasons. But as we talked about a little bit whenever you and I first had a conversation, I've struggled so much with my relationship with food, with my body image, just like throughout my whole life, but especially whenever I was younger, which I want to point out that was like the probably like height of it for me was in the 2000s, the early 2000s, when I mean, it's always been a thing, right? Just like telling us that we have to be smaller, telling us like society telling us what we can and can't eat, telling us what food is good, what food is bad, what bodies are good, what bodies are bad. But I just feel like there was a peak during that time. And I got those same messages at home. I got those same messages with the media, with like magazines. It was everywhere. And yeah, I would love to just hear like a bit about maybe like how your relationship has evolved with food and body image, just whatever you want to share about that journey.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Neely. I relate so much to also so I was at my worst with my relationship with food and my body in the 2000s, like early 2000s as well. And I think it's I don't think we've ever really gotten away from having the media force one type of body image towards us, but I know from my experience that really affected me in the 2000s. And it was I remember the I'm not sure that I was aware of this, but I know I've seen it later, but where Nicole we were questioning if Nicole Richie was fat, and it was like all these, these crazy things. But it really affects you when you only see one body type. And I really loved like music as a kid, and the emo look was very much like thin, super straight hair, very skinny, skinny jeans. So that definitely impacted me. And I was later diagnosed with ADHD and PTSD, but I didn't know any of that as a kid. And that definitely impacted the way that I ate and the way that I used food to cope with anxiety and to as a stimulant. And I didn't have any of that information at the time. So to me, it just felt like, oh, I keep hearing like calories in, calories out. It's so easy, but it wasn't easy for me. So it led me to think like, wow, what's wrong with me that eating is seems to be a basic function of life, and it, and it definitely led me to think like, wow, why is this so hard for me? And diet culture makes it seem like it should be really easy and just really obvious to everyone, and it's really not. So that was really my experience with eating, and I definitely struggled with disordered eating as well throughout the 2000s. I remember there were so many iterations of different diets, like, and what was good for you, what was bad for you. But one that stuck out to me was I remember a lot of people within like my circle, and this was even I had a better relationship with food at this time, but really even up until the point that I was like working and out of college, people saying like, "Oh yeah, bananas are really bad for you." And at that time, if I was eating a banana, I felt like I was doing something good for myself. So it hit a point for me where I realized there was not really any winning with diet culture because things are always changing according to trends. And I really wanted to learn more about nutrition and what made me feel good. So that was where I was coming from.
Yes, yes, I can absolutely relate. And also just something I wanted to point out about like that time frame to the early aughts, I guess is what they're called. Like, at least for me, one of my special interests at the time, and I don't know whether this came before or after the like body image struggles or the whenever I started struggling with disordered eating, but I know that it all kind of happened around that time where I got super into fashion and like supermodels, and I feel like there was like a really that was a key point in time for the fashion industry. There was a lot of Kate Moss, I remember being really big
Mhm.
at that time, and she's always been known to be exceedingly small and kind of like the benchmark. That's who you try to look like. That's who you try to dress like. That I
Right.
remember her being like really a big deal for me, and I loved her for whatever reason. And then also like the Victoria's Secret models at the time, I feel
Yeah.
like that messaging was like in our face. It was in the teen magazines. It was on like on TV, like main channels would play like the Victoria's Secret fashion show or whatever. And they didn't care. Like they wanted all of their models to be really small and like unrealistic standards. And I just remember idolizing these people. And I wanted to be, my dream was to be a supermodel for a while, which is so weird to think about now, like, especially what I'm doing now for work. Maybe I'm finally reaching something that like
Yeah,
combines everything and like makes sense for me at least
I think
and
so.
is not
I think
hopefully not encouraging that culture. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I think you're spreading positivity instead. I think when you look at how podcasts are like our gold standard now, but I so relate. Like it's funny. It was almost like a memory unlocked when you said that. I used to love America's Next Top Model. I don't even know why. It was just really addictive to watch. And looking back, it was. I mean, I love Tyra, but she was so toxic. Now that I actually look back and kind of see what those girls were put through, it's man, it's wild to even think about. And there were so many other issues with that show too that now we probably don't even need to get into, but it's really interesting to look back now and see it and see things I didn't even question when I was just watching it because I like the makeovers and I like the fashion.
Right. And like it's so interesting too to think about how harmless we thought all of that was back then, especially now being able to look back on that time and it's so stark how not harmless it actually is in reality. Like I feel like the timing was just that wouldn't have worked if it had started, a decade in a different decade basically. But
Right.
speaking of America's Next Top Model, I'm glad you brought that up cuz a little bit of Neely lore about me is that, like I said, my dream was to be a supermodel. I'm 5'6", so that already was not so much in the cards for me just height wise, but they had like a shorties season, at least one
I love
season that was
that.
like for a short, it was like for 5'6" and below or 5'7" and below people that wanted to get into modeling. My cousin and I, we were hell bent on applying to be on the shorties one. And that's what, like, I was 19, I think, at the time. And that's the reason why I got my first passport was so that I
Okay.
had to have a passport in order to apply. And it's just really weird to think about, like, that I was motivated enough, even though ADHD and all of those things, I was so motivated to do this that I like actually went and got through the process of getting a passport and everything for it. But then I ended up chickening out. I was like, this is scary. I don't want to like be on TV. And I probably saved myself a lot of stress and awfulness from being on reality
Trauma.
TV at 19. Yeah,
Did you
for
do a
real.
video? Like your intro video to get on the show?
No, I feel like one of the first requirements was the passport thing. And so my cousin and I were like, okay, let's do that. And then she was still really hell-bent on doing it afterwards. And I was like, I'm scared. I'm too scared. It
No.
was ultimately for the best.
It's pretty justified when you think about how much of that show is just like Tyra and Jay yelling, like screaming at girls. And we were kind of taught to view them as like tough love coaches. And, I mean, they're like aesthetically seem like nice people, but then you realize they're really not. And it makes you wonder how many of the people on that show were neurodivergent and were just having someone scream at them for not wanting to do. I mean, there are so many ridiculous challenges that you wouldn't even find in the real modeling world, get in a frozen pond or do something that's like a sensory nightmare. And then you have somebody is someone in like perfect, perfect weight, perfect hair extensions and makeup just screaming at you it reminds me of The Substance a little bit. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's a horror movie, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've been wanting to. I definitely
It's
want to see it.
it's good. I wouldn't recommend like snacking while eating it, even though I'd recommend snacking it literally every other time. It's kind of gross, but it's definitely a good commentary on just like beauty standards and the industry in Hollywood and how that's prioritized. So
Oh, okay. I love it. I'm a little bit weird about horror movies, but I think like if there's commentary and if there's like psychological elements to it, I'm good. I can handle that. If it's just gratuitous gore for the sake of
I'm the same
terrifying
way.
you. Yeah,
I don't
I love
really do
it.
jump scares now. Like, I'm anxious enough without someone trying to make me anxious. No.
Right? Yeah, same here. Awesome. Okay, so Alexis, I'm curious to know, just like with the broader topic of diet culture and body image and stuff like that, like what were some of I'm curious if you can pinpoint some of the messaging that you were hearing, maybe growing up, whether it could have been from family or from media or anything like that, that like now you have a totally different view on, but it really kind of shaped your view on food or your body at the time.
That's a really good question. So I heard diet messaging. This is kind of wild, but I was 8 when I first started to be aware of calories. And one thing that I heard, and for whatever reason, I have a older brother that's 4 years older. For whatever reason, my parents let him fully go on a diet at that time, which he was also way too young to be doing that. But it was the slim fast thing. And one thing that I remember hearing was that a meal should only be 200 calories, which now looking back, I'm like, wow, that's like a toddler meal. So it was like a bar or a shake, and that's how much you should be eating for. I think it was every meal except I think dinner could be like 400 to 500 calories. And as a kid, not knowing anything about like what the human body actually needs to survive, I thought if you were eating over that, you were just the worst person ever, which I think what I absorbed really early on too was a lot of like moralization about the word like fat was bad and like anything associated with that was morally bad. It meant that you weren't enough and you were a terrible person with no self-control. And certain foods were really moralized, like, okay, you're eating bad or you're eating good. And to this day, so I am a vegetarian, which is neither here nor there, but I love salad because I can just like, I've always loved salad my entire life. I also love like ice cream and frozen yogurt. But I hate whenever people see you like eating a salad or a smoothie and say, "Oh, you're being good" or "You're being this," because it almost makes me want to like throw the salad away. Um, but I hate the idea of good or bad, and it's interesting because I'm definitely I love that I'm at peace with where I'm at with food, but I've been on both sides of it where I've had people say, "Oh my," I got to this hyperfixation when I was first it was at my first post-college job where I was getting Frosties from Wendy's like every single day. I have no idea why. It was what I needed at the time and I have zero regrets, but I remember coworkers being like, "You eat ice cream every day. What is wrong with you?" And the hyperfixation we have on like other people's food choices and whether it's good or it's bad is such a strange thing. And I remember as a kid, there's definitely been times where that has influenced me to think, oh my gosh, like if I go over 200 calories, I'm the worst person ever. I'm just like this horrible monster of a human being. So I think that's something that we really underestimate. And we're taught not to be honest about it, right? Like we're taught to be effortlessly thin. I think there was also a lot of like I don't know, cool kid thing of like, yeah, I like to eat pizza, but I also weigh 20 pounds at all times. So, and some people are just naturally thin and have high metabolism. So definitely not a dig at any body type. But I think we're taught never to look like we're dieting, but we should always be dieting. We're taught to be super chill and casual about food, but also we should be effortlessly thin. That juxtaposition was just so hard growing up with.
Yeah, and it's like so many other things, it's completely unrealistic to actually meet all of those standards all at one time. And there's so much contradiction in that culture and in those ideals. So, especially like, I think as people that are neurodivergent, it's even harder to kind of suss out like what's actually the safe option, like what's actually healthy for me, what actually, we weren't getting messaging that could adapt to different types of bodies or different types of brains. We were just getting these same kind of messages for everybody, the same expectations for everybody, but then there'd be all these weird, like, contradicting things along with it at the same time.
Right.
I'm feeling I'm feeling compelled to share. This is like something that I'm like mortified looking back on. You mentioned the emo and like the scene days, which I can totally
Oh,
relate. We're
yes.
obviously similar in age.
It's was
And
such an embarrassing time, but I love it.
oh, I love it. I genuinely am like I look fondly back on it, but obviously there was a lot of like problematic messaging that we were getting during that time. And I was like part of we called ourselves like the scene kids in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like this weird hybrid of like hippie, like emo scene, boho kind of situation. I don't know. Me and my friends were all on MySpace and we had these nicknames for each other. And so one of my friends, her name was Ariel, and she went by Ariel Anarchy, which that's fucking sick. Can I just say?
That
Like,
is a
that's such,
name. I hope
like,
she never
so cool.
changed that.
Well, she like, not to like be a downer, she passed away like pretty young. She was one of my really good
Oh,
friends. But that's that's okay. Everything's fine. I think that she was just a wonderful person, but we both had really horrible like body image issues. We both would like starve ourselves and we would kind of like joke
mhm.
about it and we like normalized it, and so did some of the other
Yeah.
people in the group. And I remember someone in the group, like they had a similar alliterative name that was like an A name, A anorexia, basically. And then I went by Neely nervosa. So anybody that's listening who's heard of anorexia nervosa or bulimia nervosa, I believe is the other one. That's why I went by Neely nervosa. How, like, I literally was starving myself. And then that was like the way that I portrayed myself. It was almost like a cry for help, but also like a
Yeah.
flex.
It's a really hardcore name in a way, though. But it's also, like, it's so, that culture of the time, like, it was really, like, popular too and really encouraged almost. So I think, like, we do cope with dark humor though, right? Like, I don't know, I think, like, a lot of, like, neurodivergent people tend to cope with dark humor, but it was very, like, accepted within those communities to joke about anorexia and bulimia, and we kind of all knew that we were doing it, and, like, we just at times, we'd even encourage each other, and it was just it wasn't really taken very seriously. I hate that you were struggling with food, but I love the name. Is that wrong?
Right? Like I can objectively be like, it's kind of sick. Like, I'm not gonna lie, kind of a
Right.
sick nickname. I don't know. Kind of sounds hardcore. I don't know. But but like realistically, so awful. And I don't know if you were part of, so I mentioned MySpace. I don't know if you were ever on LiveJournal. Did you know about
I was
LiveJournal?
on DeviantArt, if you remember that, and
Okay.
that had, like, a live
Yes.
journal feature, so it's sorta similar.
Absolutely similar. And you might have had a similar experience on DeviantArt. And they had like communities that were dedicated to the Anna movement, is what they liked to
Mhm.
like nickname it. But it was like these communities that were specifically for you to glorify and like idolize
Right.
thin people, thin models, whether it was people that were just regular people that shared photos online of their eating disorder journey. And I just remember like spending so much time. It was definitely like a special interest or like a hyperfixation of mine at the time. And I would just spend so much time like staring at these photos, scrutinizing my own body, like trying to come up with the perfect BMI for myself. It was literally glorified. Like, there are a lot of things I think these days where people say it's being glorified just because people are talking about it, but these were actually like, there were a lot of communities and spaces that you could find specifically to feed your
Yeah.
own need. And yeah, I'm wondering if you encountered spaces like that online at the time too.
I definitely did. So I remember I encountered like they called them like the pro Anna forums, so like the pro
Mm-hmm.
anorexia forums. And the thing that shocked me, like I was one of them, but they were full of like young people that were on these forums, like 14 to 16-year-olds. You have like that kind of like morbid curiosity, and like I'm someone that it also sort of turns into like a hyperfixation too, where you're just like, what is this? And you start going through and you start comparing yourself and you get inspired by what other people are doing. So people will share tips on how to not eat and how to not raise suspicion from those around you with not eating. When you mentioned your Neely Nervosa name and how obvious it was, that really struck a note with me too. That I think we really dismiss disordered eating unless you're at a dangerous level, unless it was extremely, extremely obvious. It was kind of like they're fine. They just need attention, which is a whole nother thing too. Like always struck me as a really interesting way to dismiss people. Yeah, like I at my worst when I was actually like quite a bit younger, and I think I was never that bad again, but I think I just got better at hiding it. But I actually got put on Ensure, that really disgusting tasting meal replacement drink. I think it's gotten better from what I've heard. So I've got a friend that takes it sometimes for medical reasons, and she said it's a lot better these days. So as a kid, I was like, oh, 90s protein meal replacement drink. But my doctor actually put me on it. It got to the point my parents did take me to the doctor for losing a lot of weight. And it was interesting because I distinctly remember the doctor asking me, oh, did you ever think you were fat, or did you feel like you needed to lose weight? And I just said no, because even as a kid, I didn't want to like get in trouble or for it to trigger something. I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. And they never asked me that question again. And there was no follow up. It was just kind of a, well, I don't know. She's just being a kid. Maybe she just wants the attention, try some Ensure until she gains weight, and we'll just leave it from there. But thinking back to that, it's one of those things as an adult, you think back and like that memory comes back, and you're like, wow, that was a little fluffed up um, when you think about it.
Right.
So like I think a lot of us are really out. Yeah, I don't know if you've watched like all those like shows of the era always had like the anorexic character was really trying to hide it. And I don't think a lot of us were really hiding it very well. I think it just wasn't being taken seriously.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I feel like I was constantly kind of asking, like doing like cries for help, basically. I mean, even just the name, like going by Neely Nervosa, I feel like is a very obvious, like if people were actually paying attention, then they'd be like, that's concerning. Like it doesn't take that much to
Right.
draw the conclusion that that's concerning, but it was very, very normalized and expected of us. And I know that like my growing up, my mom, she when my mom was like my age now, or like maybe a little bit younger, so I'll say like in her 20s, early 30s maybe, she struggled a lot with her body image, and she was always like trying to be at a calorie deficit. And she would tell me like some of these like almost horror stories about it, but I was taking it as like not advice, but I was like learning from it without her realizing that that's like I wanted to be just like her. I was always being compared to her. We look really similar, so there's no denying that I'm her daughter. And so people always just acted like my mom was perfect. You need to be just like her when you grow up. And so I was like, oh, okay. Even though she's talking about this like it's a negative thing, it's still like was giving me like tips unintentionally in like a weird way. And yeah, we hear a lot of that messaging, like even just in our own like childhood homes without our parents fully realizing. And my dad always would like make comments about women on TV, but only women, right? Because he was
Yeah.
also
Same.
like, he
Same
was
here.
overweight. Yeah, he was overweight, which is fine for men, but he would always talk about like, I remember Kelly Clarkson, like our family
Oh
loved
my
Kelly
gosh, my dad did
Clarkson.
that too.
What the hell? Like, it's so
Is
weird.
that like a
And she's like,
universal memory?
nothing we've experienced is actually unique, is what is the conclusion we're coming to. But it was interesting with her too, because like our whole family loved her because she was from Texas. So we were like, oh, that's our girl. She's
Yeah.
from Texas. She can sing. She was the first winner of American Idol, whatever. The main criticism of her was like, oh, if she could just lose a little bit of weight. And she was very like healthy, like average weight. There was nothing like
Right.
concerning, I think, looking back especially, there was nothing concerning about her weight, but I'm sure she got so much shit for it for no reason. It sounds like you had a similar experience with the Kelly Clarkson thing. Do you remember like other
Maybe that's
kinds
like a
of
rite of passage. But yeah, my dad would also say stuff about Kelly Clarkson despite being very overweight himself. So it was only towards women.
right,
But yeah, it's so interesting too. And I remember, and even, thinking about, I'm not sure how recent this was, but I remember all the way up to now, there was a whole thing about Kelly Clarkson being on Ozempic and how she's a terrible person for doing that. And it just seems like, women can't win no matter what they do. And, I think definitely Ozempic is kind of being pushed quite a bit now, but I think there's definitely like medical and personal reasons why it can be helpful for people. And without knowing that, I don't think it's any of our business. But yeah, I remember somewhat recently reading about questioning if Kelly Clarkson's on Ozempic, and it just kind of took me back to just thinking, wow, this poor girl cannot win with people trying to it's so interesting that weight is such an intimate thing and we're so comfortable trying to figure out people's weight and what they're doing in their personal lives and why they're doing it and if they have a valid reason for doing it. One of the things that we say in Full Plate that Amy always says is that your goal weight may not actually be your body's ideal weight. And I think about that a lot. Seeing all these like singers and actresses and thinking like, okay, this is a good weight according to like BMI or according to what I'm seeing like other women are supposed to have like this weight. And then, thinking about it is really true. Like we're all made up so genetically different too, that may not be your body's naturally ideal weight. The people that you're comparing yourself to, that might not be their natural weight. They might be, just like you were saying with your mom, they might be basically starving themselves to be at that weight. I remember, I'm trying to think, oh, it was, gosh, why am I blanking on his name? But Jacob from Twilight. um, gosh, why am I,
Taylor
the
Lautner.
actor? Yes, thank you. I remember he got so much critique after he lost his six pack, and like in one interview, he tells people he's like, "That wasn't what I was doing to maintain that. Wasn't healthy at all. Like that wasn't my natural body, and that's not anyone's natural body." But it's another one that I think about because he was so young when he played that role, and to this day, people are critiquing him and saying, "Oh man, he doesn't look like that anymore." And it's so interesting to see the unrealistic expectations that people have, and we're kind of trained to think celebrities are just fair game, and we can kind of pick it apart. But
Right? Yeah, and it's like it just makes me think too just of the how easily, and I guess especially this is a thing right now a little bit more overtly than I want to believe that it was before, but when people see a difference that's very like visible, like a physical change in people, whether that's they got plastic surgery or maybe it's not a change, it's just something that they can't relate to, like somebody being of a different race or a different culture or things like that. It does seem like people feel like they can just make comments about that and it's fair game. And in reality, like why is it okay for us to make these comments in general, especially if it's something that we personally can't relate to? We don't know all of the details behind something, but we're just so quick to be like, well, I need to share my opinion about this, or I need to tell you what I think about
right.
your weight change. Why?
I had a roommate. We had kind of a problematic third roommate at the time, but one of her, my roommate was a teacher, so she was very good at mediating. But she would always say, "You don't need to comment on everything you notice." And I think about that for myself too, and for just generally, it's kind of a good measure where it's okay to take a moment and say, "Oh, that's an inside thought. I actually don't need to have my opinion here."
Right? Yeah, like, I mean, on, like, a podcast called Intentional Oversharing, like, I try hard to, like, share. I don't know, people are weird about oversharing, or, like, trauma dumping is, like, always painted in such a bad way, and I just think that that is a good way to try to shut us up from sharing our stories, and to, like, make us question whether we're sharing too
Yeah.
much. A lot of the people that listen to my stuff are probably millennials and can relate to a lot of this. I don't share it to be like to glorify it or just say that it was okay or good, but it's like I want you to feel heard and seen whenever you hear these stories that other people went through. Like, your experience might actually not be unique, and that might make you feel like less of a freak.
Like that, did your grown dad make fun of like a 17-year-old?
Right? For like, seriously. And like, if so, like, maybe it's okay that you are struggling with your body image or
Yeah.
with diet or whatever, if these were the messages that you were getting as you were growing up in a really vulnerable time in your life. Awesome. Okay, so I want to make sure and ask you this. I've had this question floating around up here. I So you mentioned, like, with the full plate, this intuitive eating community. Can you just speak more about intuitive eating, like, for folks that are listening that might not really know what that is referring to?
Yeah. So intuitive eating is really following your body's natural hunger cues and not following diet rules or trends or restrictions. And it's not about being in tune with those cues right away. I'd say almost everyone in our community, the first thing people say is, I don't trust my hunger cues, or I feel like I've messed up my hunger cues. And that's definitely me. It took me years to actually figure out what my body was trying to tell me. And we acknowledge, all cues that can be. I don't know if you've ever heard the thing of, are you really hungry or are you just thirsty? So we kind of live in an area of moderation where it's okay to eat food for joy. You don't have to say, "Oh, I'm just thirsty. I don't deserve food." If your body is telling you that I'm craving something, we want you to honor your cravings. And it's about learning nutrition along with what your body's naturally telling you. So that when you have those tools and resources and that support, you can start to just naturally understand your body a little bit better. You can start to heal and fix things that maybe were broken a little bit by all of the diet culture and all of the things that you were told. So I just really love the sense of community too. Like it's great to see our members supporting one another and just relating to each other. Just like what we talked about, I think so many people come to the full plate and they think I'm all alone and my food issues are really weird. Food is such a weirdly embarrassing thing. And I'll admit, like for myself, it is too. Like, I don't want to admit that I used to eat like Frosties almost every single day as my lunch. I don't know why, it was just a thing I was doing. But, people come and they don't wanna admit, like, "Oh, I have a really messed up relationship with food," or maybe I have an okay relationship with food, but there's things that I still wanna learn. And it's really cool just to see other people just jump in and say, like, "Hey, me too. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. I'm also struggling with this. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to put it out there." And then Amy is just amazing. So she provides all of the knowledge and the science backed nutrition counseling. So we're really big on science. We love science around here. So it's not going to be advice like just eat 5 almonds until you feel better. It's things that can really help you to fuel your energy throughout the day, to help you focus at work. I think a lot of us, like remote workers, are such snacky people, and learning ways to be more effective in that has been super helpful to myself as well as a lot of other folks in the community. So it's a really cool place to be.
I love it. Can you tell us, like, maybe a little bit more about what you guys are doing there? Like, I think it's on Heartbeat, right?
Yeah, we love Heartbeat. So we compared a bunch of different platforms. We're really loving Heartbeat. And what we do, so within the community, we have our main discussion space where everyone is welcome to come chat about whatever they'd like. And then Amy provides guided discussions throughout the week. We do challenges. We're working on a Feeling Your Fullness challenge right now. And we do workshops as well. One of our newest things that we've recently launched that's been really fun is a book club. So there's the intuitive eating book has been really helpful to go through. And I think books are more fun when you're reading together. So we've been having our book club meetings. Within those workshop spaces, we have gatherings after the workshops if you want to talk with amongst your peers and just chat about like, hey, how was that? What did that make you feel? Did that stir up anything? That's been really cool to see. And then Amy also does an AMA, Ask Me Anything. So if you have questions after that workshop or you just have a question that, you've never found like the right space to ask that, we always have that available. And then, of course, one of our coolest features is we've got our learning hub that has tons of resources. So you basically get access to a full on course. So it's kind of a living document. So we're always adding new things like recipes, giving you new things to kind of chew on. I know I've probably made too many food puns already, but it's definitely a cool place for sure.
We can't have too many puns on this podcast. I welcome the
I love
puns.
that.
Yes. And I'm definitely going to make sure that we have the community linked in the description that's attached
Amazing.
to this podcast for sure. Do you have other things that you want to speak on with this topic, even if it's tangentially related?
Um, I would love to know if you were to do a different scene kid name now, what would it be? Like if you could
Ooh,
replace Neely
okay.
Nervosa.
I feel like I have to do the alliterative thing, right?
Yeah.
Because that was like a hallmark. Neely neurodivergence.
I love it. That's amazing.
It feels very
I
like
kind of love
big.
I kind of love it though.
Yeah, hey, we'll just go with that. Neely
It
neurodivergence.
yeah, it connects with your coaching and what you're doing. Like I think that's amazing.
I love it. I think it's been like one of my main kind of constant special interests throughout my life is like neurodivergence of all kinds, whether we're talking about
Yeah.
disordered eating or we're talking about ADHD or autism or trauma or like any of the different diagnoses that are within that bracket or traits that fall within it. So yeah, I think that would be mine. Now I'm going to turn that on you. What would be yours
Ooh.
that's not problematic? Or the problematic one compared to what it would be
Huh.
now.
I mean, I really like the alliteration too. I did have one of my favorite bosses used to call me Lexus Nexus, and that's kind of always stuck, and it's really cringy. But she called me that because she was like, "Well, you're really good at finding information." I
I
appreciate that. Right after I said it, I was like, "That's not alliteration."
No, but it's whatever the other word is to whenever words like rhyme.
Yeah, it's
Tell us what that is in the comments below. Whatever that word is
no.
that neither of us can think of. Okay, sweet. I'm really excited about just being a part of the full plate, having these
Yes.
conversations and kind of trying to integrate the work that I'm doing with the work that you guys are doing. It's such an important thing for us to speak more openly about and to like destigmatize even just talking about and being more open about, I think, especially because people can be struggling and you can try to hide that and feel like you aren't like it's not safe to talk about these topics or you're
Yeah.
going to be judged or stigmatized in different ways. Thank you to Nav Rao for encouraging
No.
Alexis to talk to me. Yeah, shout out to Nav. But also like it's very these what we do all like it aligns so well whether people really realize that it does or not. Something that I am wanting to bring up that I'm kind of exploring for myself, and I don't know if you know much about this, but are you familiar with the diagnosis ARFID?
Yeah, I am actually. I don't struggle
Can
with
you
that,
speak
but
to
I
it?
know someone in my life that does actually.
For anyone who is listening, I want to look up what it stands for. ARFID, ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And so, yeah, this seems to be maybe like, I don't know how strongly tied to autism, but it seems to be like co-occurring with a lot of different like types of neurodivergence. And it's something that like now that I know about it and it's being talked about more, I'm like, oh, how much of my own problematic or disordered eating was actually like also tied in to what could have been like ARFID. I think that now I would
Right.
probably count as or maybe qualify for having ARFID, because if I actually allow myself to respect whenever I have an aversion rather than just trying to like power through it,
Mhm.
then I'm like, oh, a lot of different things actually kind of gross me out. And I don't want to eat that now because it's in the certain state. Or, yeah, I didn't know if that was something that you knew more about that you could.
A little bit, but I think did you ever get told so I don't think that I've never been diagnosed with ARFID, and I don't think I necessarily have that, but I do definitely have certain food aversions, or it will just be something won't align that day, and say I made overnight oats the day before, and now the texture looks really weird to me. And rather than forcing myself to eat it, I've really I don't like wasting food, but I've really been trying to lean into giving myself grace with that. And I think it's been really helpful for me. So I don't know. I'd be curious, were you ever told, like clean your plate or you have to finish this or you're picky as a kid? So I think like I know for a lot of neurodivergence that can be just like the worst experience ever and it almost like fuels more of the eating aversions too.
Yeah, absolutely. I was always told that I was a picky eater, and which I would like to reclaim that as like a descriptor, like a morally neutral descriptor of the way that I eat, rather than it being like, I think I saw something, it might have been like a video or something very recently where somebody said that they were a picky eater and maybe that's one of their red flags or something. And I was like, oof, like, why does that have to be, as long as like I'm not expecting others to just like cater all the time, and as long as I'm like, I try to like accommodate myself whenever it comes
Yeah,
to nourishing myself, then like I don't think it needs to be viewed as a red flag, but it's definitely something that we're conditioned and taught from a young age. If we don't like a certain food, then like we're just being we're just being little babies, we need to grow up, or there's like all of this negative messaging behind it. And it just feels like really unfair. I like that you mentioned giving yourself grace to not eat something if maybe it'll make you feel sick to try to eat it, or maybe it just grosses you out and you won't enjoy the process. Ideally, we would be enjoying our meals. I don't know.
exactly. I mean, that's really the heart of it. And I love what you said too about, why is that considered a red flag or a social taboo? Like I love to solo travel so I can just snack all day and be completely weird and feral. But when I have a couple of friends that I do love traveling with because we get each other and we all kind of have our little neurodivergent quirks. But one of the things like we do is like we're comfortable with we don't have to eat at the same restaurant or someone can have like a drink or an appetizer and not we're totally comfortable each getting our own food if we don't feel like having the same thing and it's not seen as a social taboo that you don't want to sit down and have a sit down meal. And I think having gone on so many different conferences and corporate trips and trips with other people who maybe aren't as aligned with that, it's interesting to switch back into the mindset of, oh, I have to eat in this very formal environment. I have to eat exactly what's on my plate. And if I don't, it's going to be offensive. And I'm pretty good at just faking my way through it. But deep down, I still, you still kind of think about it. And you wish like, oh, why is it such a problem to let people just have their own space and to kind of honor that space? I can see it if you're wanting to drive like 2 hours in a completely different country to find like a Pizza Hut. You might be on your own with that one, but I'd still support you. I don't know. Like honestly, even within that, like I've done some pretty crazy things because I wanted like a specific pastry from a specific shop. So it's all good.
That's the issue that I
Yeah.
run into the most with just with my particular flavor of neurodivergence is actually making the decision of what I want and figuring out what my body might be craving can be such a pain, and that can be so difficult. But if you actually know, to me, anytime like my wife or myself know exactly what we want, we have like a specific craving and it's like this is it. This is what I want to make sure and
Right.
get. If that's attainable for you, what a gift, you know, that you
Yeah.
can just like go get the thing that you want. Like I had a procedure earlier this year and I had to like fast before the procedure, and so for like a it was at least 24 hours or something. And I was joking with my wife that I was going to want to go to Papacitos after the procedure was done for my first like big meal or whatever. For anybody listening
Nice.
who's not familiar with Papacitos, it's a Texas-based chain restaurant, the Papa's restaurants. And Papacitos is like a
I did not
Mexican.
know that.
Yes, they have like jumbo shrimp bruschetta, and it's so expensive.
Um,
Like this is not something that we can do all the time, but if I'm fasting, I know I'm going to want to eat this afterwards. And so we went and made it happen, and we spent a bunch of money on it, and that was silly, but it was fun. And it gave me something to look
I love
forward to
that.
after this kind of scary procedure. And like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. You deserve to treat yourself too. Like whatever that looks like to you. I think that yeah, you deserve that, and there's so much, I don't know. I think it comes back to like that moralizing, like, oh, picky, and I love that you're reclaiming that. It's like, this is great. I'm gonna splurge on this. I totally deserve this. So that's awesome. Yeah, one of
Yeah.
my things, like I love Jamba Juice, and we don't have one here. So if it's in the airport, I don't care. I know airport food is like insanely expensive, but I will spend money on Jamba Juice every single time. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, I love that. And that just like weird full circle thing, but my friend Ariel that I mentioned earlier was obsessed with Jamba Juice. So that just feels like a
So
cute
good. I
little,
love
like we're
that.
closing the loop of that to Ariel Anarchy.
I'm raising a Jamba.
Yeah,
If I
it's
had a Jamba Juice, I would raise it. I will next time I fly. I'll be like Ariel Anarchy and sip my Jamba in the airport.
pour a little bit out for Ariel. Yeah, and so like moral of the story, listening to our bodies and finding spaces and communities and support like the full plate, for
Yes.
example, where these kinds of conversations can be had more openly, and you'll feel less like a weird little freak when you know that other people get it.
I love I kind of want t-shirts though that just say weird little freak now. That's amazing. And like maybe
Oh,
one for my cat too, because that would be like matching with her where we both have that energy. Oh my god.
oh, awesome. Okay, I so appreciate your time today, Alexis. It's been really great to have you.
Thank you so much for
um,
having me, Neely. And we so appreciate having you in the full plate community too.
yes, I'm really looking forward to the future of the community, and I'm glad to know. I was going to ask you when you guys started it, and you mentioned in September. So it's early
Yeah.
days.
You can find us. We're on LinkedIn if you're listening on LinkedIn. And you can also just go to joinfullplate.com. You can find us on Heartbeat if you're involved in other communities on there. We're the full plate on everything, sometimes the full plate community. But one of the really cool things about Full Play is that we want to keep it accessible and inclusive. So we do have a free membership tier that's always going to be free no matter what. And then if you want a little bit more like workshop access, more of that like concierge kind of experience, we also have our paid tier as well. And that is just $29 a month. So we still try to keep it really affordable, really accessible. We know that nutrition coaching can be pretty cost prohibitive, especially dealing with insurance and things. If you're in America, we are an interesting place in that regard. So we wanted to keep it really straightforward. We've got a free tier, and then the next tier up from that is just our $29 a month. We're really happy to have you. Come check us out.
Thank you so much for being here today, Alexis. I really appreciate your time,
Thank
and I really
you.
appreciate what you're doing for your community.
Likewise, I love the space you've created here, Neely. I love the intentional oversharing.
Awesome. And now you're a part of that, which I love.
Yay!
Um,
Your
and
little
yeah,
freaks club.
awesome.